My mother-in-law is a great-grandmother. In her opinion, she is also a great mother-in-law. I spent a few days with my daughter, and the conclusion is obvious. We will never agree on raising a child. She thinks that I do everything wrong and that she should refrain from commenting. Mrs. Kinga, the mother of 2-year-old Anielka, writes in the letter. What did the mother-in-law get under her skin? The relationship between Kinga and her husband's mother changed after her daughter-in-law's last visit to her in-law's house. I was supposed to stay with my daughter for a week, but after 3 days, I packed my suitcase. I didn't deserve the words I heard at my address. Reads the letter sent to the editorial office. By what right does a 68-year-old woman point out my upbringing mistakes towards my only daughter? Every problem, as she used to call the subsequent stages of her granddaughter's development, is attributed to me. As if I was raising Anielka alone, not with my husband, Mrs. Kinga laments. I haven't heard as many critical comments in my entire marriage as I did in those 3 days with my in-laws, she adds. What about her husband? It was supposed to be a lovely week, during which grandparents would care for their beloved granddaughter, and I would finish a project for work in peace. Of course, nothing foreshadowed the sad finale. But from the beginning, how did I end up in my in-laws' house? On September 1st, our daughter returned to the nursery after the holidays. Summer has ended, the temperature has dropped drastically, and thus the season of infections and diseases has begun. Aniela often has a cold, so she spent half of September at home with me. My husband had business trips planned for last week, and I'm chasing deadlines at work. We decided the best solution would be to use our in-laws' help. We rarely ask anyone for help in caring for a child. The in-laws are long retired and often invited the 3 of us to their place. So I thought, why not? Today I know there were better ideas than remote work with my mother-in-law behind the wall. I was supposed to stay with my daughter for a week, but I packed my suitcase after 3 days. I didn't deserve the words I heard addressed to me. Why do I feel sorry for her? First, I heard her talking about me more than once. She was constantly on the phone with her second daughter-in-law. She told her that she finally had her beloved granddaughter with her. I see her at least once every 2 weeks, which I consider an outstanding statistic. May she not go into you. My mother-in-law is a great grandma. But, unfortunately, she also thinks she's a great mother-in-law. I spent a few days with my daughter, and the conclusion is obvious. We will never reach an agreement on raising a child. She thinks I'm doing everything wrong, and I think she should keep her comments to herself. She says I'm a lazy mom who doesn't want to diaper her 2-year-old daughter. These are the exact words she used in her conversation with her daughter-in-law. I don't know what she's waiting for. I raised 3 children who peed in the potty right after their first birthday. Instead of caring for it, it waits for a miracle or doesn't want to. Then it only got worse. The mother-in-law also allowed herself to comment on our daughter's diet. Anielka struggles with food selectivity. He eats little. Fortunately, I still breastfeed her, which definitely affects her overall health. My mother-in-law often suggested that maybe Anielka is a poor eater because I cook poorly and breastfeed her for too long. She also referred to my appearance many times. I am slim and underweight, and my body has not fully recovered from pregnancy. May it not go into you. Just skin and bones, she told me on the first day at lunch. I replied politely that it was my nature. I, too, was a fussy eater in preschool. I hope that Anielka will gain more appetite with age. However, the mother-in-law did not give up. You should spend more time cooking, not working. Same with diapering. The baby is the most important thing, she said suddenly. I thought it was some joke. I barely carried the pregnancy to term. I spent 15 months at home with my daughter. I only take morning shifts at work to keep her in the nursery as short as possible. Finally, I decided to end this unfounded discussion about my motherhood once and for all. In a calm tone, I replied to Mom that I give 200% every day. I'm not quitting my job because we have a loan and other obligations. Anielka has made significant progress in eating, which is the nursery's merit. Her peers and teachers motivate her greatly. I breastfeed because, according to the recommendation of our pediatrician, in this way, I support her immunity. I don't give her sweets or yell at her grandparents, who notoriously give her chocolate, although I've asked them not to. After her second birthday, I'll try to wean her off the breast. I'll try, just like Anielka, she tries to pee on the potty more and more often alone, without our orders. Other thoughts raced through my mind. By what right does a 68-year-old woman point out my parenting errors toward my only daughter? Every problem, as she used to call the stages of her granddaughter's development, she attributes to me as if I was raising Anielka alone, not with my husband. I only made one remark to her. Don't let your mother forget that Anielka has two parents. We are raising her together. Perhaps not everything is going our way, but criticism is not only for me, I said, looking her straight in the eye. What about the mother-in-law? She said I was impudent. After all, she wants the best for her granddaughter, and I'm picking on her son now. It was too much for me. In my marriage, I've never heard as many critical remarks as I did during those 3 days with my in-laws. I called my husband and asked him to pick us up in the morning. He could hear from my voice that I wasn't joking. After that, there was a deathly silence in the house. The father-in-law told the mother-in-law that she had not interfered unnecessarily. I thanked him for those words. However, the mother-in-law continued to defend her rights. She suggested that I go and Anielka stays with them. She doesn't understand why we put her in daycare in the first place. With her, he will become independent, she said encouragingly. I replied that the child had a home and was returning with his parents to Gdańsk. Fortunately, my husband shared my choice. He often told me about his family quarrels. His mother always taught him and helped him out. He was up to his nose in her overprotectiveness. Me too, after 3 days. My mother-in-law thinks she would take better care of Anielka than me. Why would a mother need a daughter when she has a grandmother?